Different kinds of languages. Different kinds of languages. In 1 Corinthians chapter 12, the Apostle Paul mentions the gifts of the Spirit, normally known as the 9 gifts of the Spirit. And one of them, in verse 10, he mentions a gift called different kinds of languages. Not different languages, different kinds of languages. Let's read it. He says, let's read from verse 4. There are varieties of gifts, but the same Spirit. And there are varieties of service, but the same Lord. And there are varieties of activities, but it is the same God who empowers them all in everyone. To each is given the manifestation of the Spirit for the common good. For to one is given through the Spirit the utterance of wisdom, and to another the utterance of knowledge, according to the same Spirit. To another faith by the same Spirit, to another gifts of healing by the one Spirit, to another the working of miracles, to another prophecy, to another the ability to distinguish between spirits, to another various kinds of tongues, to another the interpretation of tongues. The word tongues means languages. So it says, to someone, another person will get the gift of various kinds of tongues. It doesn't say, in other language, in other translations, it says different kinds of languages. Now, it does not say different languages. It says different kinds of languages. Now, what do I mean? French, English, Russian, Shona, Zulu. These are different languages. But the gift here is not a gift of speaking different languages. It's the gift of speaking different kinds of languages. So, which means there are different kinds of languages that the Spirit empowers you to speak. So what's the difference between different languages and different kinds of languages? Different languages these are the ones I've spoken. If you're speaking Chinese, if you're speaking Russian, these are different languages. But when we speak of different kinds of languages, for example, if someone starts to speak in sign language, it's now a different kind of a language. Or another example, if we look at the binary code that's used in a machine, they call it machine language. It's a different kind of a language. It's a machine language, right? But then I'm sure Paul wasn't talking about binary code or sign language here, but I'm just giving examples. So if we look at, for example, animal languages, horses have a way of speaking, but it will be a different kind of language. It's different from our languages as human beings. So there's different languages and then different kinds of language. I just want you to understand. So which kinds of languages are we expecting here? In the next chapter, in verse 18, Paul says, if I speak in the tongues of men and of angels, but have not love. So if I speak in the languages of men and the languages of angels, so he's showing us two kinds of languages. The languages of men, this is one kind, which is Shona, English, whatever. And then there's the languages of angels. In fact, it's just not a language of angels, as if they speak one language. No, languages of angels. So which means just as human beings have various languages, from this scripture we can get that angels also have various languages. But the angelic languages are a different kind of language from human languages. So this is why sometimes when someone is speaking in this gift of tongues, they are speaking different kinds. And some of these languages may sound strange to human beings because they are not human languages. They're not the same kind of language as human languages. They don't operate in the same way. They don't have the same rules. They are of a different kind. So they may sound strange, they may sound funny, they may sound like gibberish, they may sound meaningless, but they are a different kind of a language. So the gift of tongues is not restricted to speaking human languages only. It's also other kinds of languages that we don't know. And an example here from 13 are languages of angels. They are another kind of languages that you can speak through the gift of tongues. If you have a different understanding of this scripture, or maybe you have thoughts that you want to share, please feel free to share them in the comments below. Stay blessed.